Hey everyone, it's Kandace and Sher with Processing Trauma Out Loud. Sher, we're back today to do part 2 on what was it like for you as a child in using your voice? Was your voice silenced? Like completely really shut down? Like you just knew, don't say anything. Or did you try to use your voice? And did you try to get your point across or point out what needed helped or fixed? And it didn't matter. Maybe it wasn't shut down, but it was definitely disregarded because, after all, you were just a child. So, Sher, let's dive into what has it been like for us? What has it been like for you? Because your voice was completely shut down.
Yeah.
What has your journey of healing been like to show up and to not only begin to use your voice, but actually know that people want to hear your voice and invite to hear your voice?
Yeah, which is the truth. I feel that now, and it almost feels a little scary to say that out loud, but I feel that my voice is really, really invited. And how meaningful that is. It just, yeah, I could get a little bit emotional about that, to be honest. My voice was very shut down. And as I said last time, I learned the rules very early on that trying to use my voice would have been unsafe. And so my voice was shut down. We'll just put it that way. I didn't tend to ask for what I needed. I figured out a way to provide for what I needed. And so I think my journey of becoming aware of this and then finding healing has been, and I've shared this before, but I remember my coach in early months would ask me often, what do you need? What do you need today? Or we'd be talking about an issue and she would ask, what do you need? And I really hated that question because I would feel a sense of spinning. I mean, I don't know, like, what? And finally, I became more comfortable asking in that moment, okay, what would options be? What would an option for me, like, what possibly could I need right now? And so she might say, well, you might need me to ask you for more, or you might need a little bit of quiet space, or you might need some care around this. And then when she would help me by giving me options, then I could say, okay, I need this. So it was a really specific, slow moving process with one safe person who really helped me begin to ask for what I need. And that, without me really knowing, that was me beginning to recognize that my voice mattered
Mhm.
and that my voice was wanted
Yeah.
and that my voice would actually be responded to.
Mhm.
And I do remember early on of being afraid to say what my option would actually be.
Mhm.
But then as trust grew and I knew that I was safe, I would be able to say, here's what I really need right now.
Mhm.
And now I feel like I can say it pretty easily right now. And I'll maybe share a little bit more about that as we go on. But how about for you, Candace?
Mhm. I think, especially as little girls, because we're talking specifically about women here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea, like we know, for a lot of women, that question that your coach asked can be very hard to answer. So, Cher, I was taught indirectly to be the voice of my family. I know that sounds complex, but I actually did have a sense that people were looking to me to to fix something or to do something. I mean, and I've shared this before. Even that little girl's voice that had to beg and plead for her brother to get up every morning.
Right.
Okay, so that's just a little example. Um, but in the bind of that, my voice also didn't matter. When I used my voice to say, Mom, we need to get help. And I told you this when we were talking. That 10-year-old girl was standing on a sinking ship with a megaphone saying, This ship is sinking. I used my voice and it still did not matter.
Yeah.
So our stories are coming from kind of different perspectives. But I liked what you said early. In a sense, they were still both shut down.
Yeah. And I'm thinking as you're sharing and as I was sharing too, like one way we can identify this also is to think about what are the ways we were affirmed or in what areas were we invited to shine? Because that would be inviting us forward, right? That would be inviting us to put our voice out into the world. And was this in a was were these number one, can we think of an area? And if we can't think of an area, were we invited to shine according to our true heart coming forward, or were we invited to shine according to the rules of the system?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, and in my case, it was too much, too fast, too soon. So I can own now that I actually can use my voice in a very good, loving, helpful, firm way at times. And a 10 or 11-year-old girl did not need to be using her voice to try to get her brother up for school.
Yeah.
So it was just too much.
Hmm.
It wasn't my role, it wasn't my job.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're talking about. So I feel like that was seen in me as a young child
Right.
and it was consumed in a way that actually harmed me.
Yeah. Brought more harm through parentification and yeah, then a host of other dominoes that fell surrounding
Are
that.
you talking about that though? That there's something of the gifting in there?
Yeah.
It gets convoluted with the trauma.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah, like we're in a healthy system, we're called forward to truly shine in the world, right?
Mhm.
To put our goodness out there, to put our voice out there, to be delighted for the ways that our glory is radiant.
Mhm.
In an unhealthy system, that is not allowed. Our glory is devoured or hated or envied.
Mhm.
And so our voice is denied and silenced and um, or abused, right? And so, yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking. Like, how were you seen and called forth? And was it for your goodness or was it for consumption?
Yeah, I would just like what I just said for consumption.
Yeah,
And so to part of the healing, so you've had your healing journey of how you begin showing up with your coach and in groups where you I know I witnessed this over years. You put your foot forward, you let a little bit of anger be seen,
yeah,
and then you would pull back.
yeah,
And you would be honest about how scary it is to feel anger,
yeah,
right? And so you've had your path on how you've continued to do that and have experienced so much goodness in having a community that not only welcomes your anger but is saying share your anger is good and needed.
yeah. I
And
know,
then
yeah,
go
which is
ahead.
still surprising to me. Yeah.
Well, it might be a good I do you want to share briefly about kind of what happened today?
Today, I
I
know.
know it's
Yeah.
so fresh, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah. So I typically wake up very early in the morning and have a very long period of time for journaling and just kind of processing things that I'm thinking about or feeling or experiencing. And this morning, as I was processing, I began to feel extreme anger. I mean, rage that became so intense. And yet I noticed that I wasn't in dysregulated rage. I wasn't chaotic. I felt like my prefrontal cortex was engaged. I recognized even a sense of this, and you called it wrath a couple of weeks ago. Like there's a righteous wrath to what you're feeling about some of the things that I experienced as a child. And that word came back to me this morning, that I had the awareness that the wrath that I feel about some of the ways that I was harmed as a child, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I ended up writing a text to our Pearls group, and I ended it with, I think the way I ended it was saying, I just cannot even express how much anger I feel right now. And I was at that moment, I was starting to really get dysregulated. As a matter of fact, I feel like I was very close to just spiraling deep down. It was almost like that amount of rage was overwhelming my system. And like literally the phone rang, my phone rang, and it was one of the Pearls. And then you called about 5 minutes later, but I was already in conversation. But Lisa called, and I picked it up right away, which there was nothing in me that felt like, oh no, I'm not gonna pick it up. Like I knew she saw my text and I knew she was calling. And I to enter this, and she, exactly what we've been talking about here, like she helped me contain the anger that I was feeling. There was no message about shut this down. There was no message about quiet down. There was no telling me to stop swearing, because I'll tell you, like the more intense language that I could speak in that moment, it's like it needed to come out of my body about
Mhm.
how much anger I felt about the things that had been done to me. And she was there, like she was with me. She was helping contain it without telling me in any way to sit down and be quiet. And I needed to keep expressing. Didn't take very long. I mean, I would say like maybe 2 minutes that I just said and spoke and felt, and she was there with me. And then I think I took a breath
Yeah. Mm.
and I could feel calmness begin to enter.
Mhm.
It was there. And she stayed with me for probably another, I don't know, 15 minutes as we processed. And it was like this experience was allowed. I was allowed to fully experience the full emotion, the
Mhm.
full expression with another person in a way that kept me safe and kept her safe. And it flowed through my body. It didn't get stuck. It didn't get shut down. It didn't get trapped. And then the calmness came. And I mean, I was shocked.
And this
Honestly,
is
I
and
was shocked.
this is how
Yeah.
we heal. So
Yeah.
what you're saying is what every child needs to be able to do. So we're actually talking about moving emotion energy in motion through the body.
Yeah.
It's why the book The Body Keeps the Score was written. Okay. And so now you know that you're going to be seen, you're going to be moved toward, sometimes faster than you realize,
Yeah.
in a minute. And and it's not going to get stuck. So I want to pause for a second, and I want to say, when we look at our lives as individuals, when we look at our lives in systems, in families, in society, when we see anger and rage gone off the rails, chaos, it is because there are emotions that got stuck, that got shut down. I'll tell you, grief suppressed can come out as rage. And what we've done as society, and I'm not saying there aren't consequences when we don't get healing,
Mhm.
because the way these things are coming out as violence against other people have to have consequences, hopefully to wake us up.
Yeah.
But if the message is you're bad and you're evil, and I know that I do believe there's evil that we surrender to.
Yeah.
But if we keep getting that message instead of the story you just shared and how you were met, I mean, I wish everybody could hear what you just shared. I mean, it really is. Like I feel the emotion of the gift
Yeah.
of being able, that little girl who could not
Yeah.
express her good anger and her intense emotion that got shut down.
Mhm.
I mean, abused.
Yeah.
What you just did
Yeah.
is the same thing that the world needs, Cher.
Yeah, and you said grief, and that is a lot of what it is, that I am so the sadness. I am so I'm so angry for the sadness that I have lived with my whole life because of the harm that came, right? It is. It's coming out as anger.
Mhm.
Coming out as sadness too, but today it very much came forth as, you know, wrath. I'll use the word.
It came out and it moved through, right? Well, where
Yeah,
did it move to? Well, it moved into the light.
yeah,
It moved into a space where love could meet the anger or
yeah,
the fear or whatever the emotion is. And this is how we heal. We we've had a we've had two episodes now on this topic.
yeah.
I'm feeling that we probably need to have one more.
Yeah, because I feel like I talked about all that and then I'm like, okay, like, Candace, are we still talking about our voice being shut down?
Absolutely.
Okay, just help me, even me, I'm being sincere here and saying this, like, help me connect with that again, because I think I went so deep into what I was feeling and all that. But so just help me review and help us review on how, yeah, what are we talking about here today?
Yeah. So you're in it right now, but I'm telling you, I clearly see the connection here. So your little girl who was abused had anger, had grief, had things she didn't even know that she had.
Yeah,
And any expression, the voice would be shut down.
mm,
So we know this, that all that was trauma, but trauma that's met in real time with real care, and the voice can be used, the emotions can be expressed, right? It moves through in that moment. And though the act is still horrific, the healing that comes quickly through using our voice, through being seen, being attuned to, doesn't let the anger get stuck in our body or the grief. Okay.
yeah,
Your voice that was silenced over the legitimate anger that you actually needed to feel, deserved to feel, and was justified to feel
yeah,
got shut down.
yeah.
And so because your voice got shut down, you couldn't heal.
Yeah.
There was no escape for you.
Yeah.
And yes, there were ways that your little girl and her brilliance found to find some soothing, to find some survival skills. The truth is that anger still wasn't able to be released until in the last few years.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you, Cher, for the courage, the hard work. Wow, the honesty and transparency, the vulnerability. It's it's stunning. And I pray that there's someone that is going to relate to you today and it's going to give them hope that there is a way to get all that unresolved material. We're talking specifically about anger, but it can be anything that's still in their body. And we know that for some people it turns to physical ailment.
Mhm.
Or this is science now.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
that,
woo woo.
no, yeah. And that we feel afraid to bring it forth for so long because of that fear that it will be too much and that I can't even handle. If I go there, I will never come out, right? And
Specifically
so
for women,
yeah.
I might add.
Yeah.
You know. Well, let's come back and do another episode in our voices being silenced. I actually feel like there's more that we need to say here.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Good to be with you
Thanks.
today.
Yeah, thank you so much. This felt like a therapy session for me.
Well, how about coaching?
Yeah, good. Thanks, coach and friend. I love you.
Love you too. Bye.